Happy New Year to you all. Congratulations, you survived another terrible year. To me personally, it's been quite quite a year. And what I noticed and what I wanted to share today is that because we're so overwhelmed with information on the daily, there's just so much happening all over the world, and we have access to all of this information 24/7, we kind of lose our grip with reality. We lose our connection to ourselves. And this is something that we need to retain in order to be helpful to others or ourselves or our community, whoever. We just lose the ability to be useful when we lose ourselves in this incessant information outpour, because our nervous systems have not evolved to be compatible with this level of awareness. We are just not evolved enough to be aware of everything all the time. And I personally have really felt this a lot in the past year because I was trying to be everywhere all at once. I was trying to be helpful to everyone all at once. And of course, I crashed hard. Just as expected, everyone would crash, and everyone should crash. If we want to remain this version of humankind, then we have to admit that this is how the humans are, and we cannot be heroes. And the thing is, I keep preaching this all the time. We're not heroes. We are not going to be able to save the world. But when it translates into our action, that's going to be much harder to maintain. And this is where we have to remember that dialectics, it works everywhere. Dialectics is a universal tool to be applied to everything, including our day-to-day lives and interactions. And dialectics tell us and show us that we are so small, yet our actions do have an impact. And we have to continuously revise and review these two truths, that ultimately what we do doesn't matter, but it still has an impact. And it's such a simple thing, such a simple truth to live with, yet we have to continuously remind ourselves that this is the reality. Our little individual actions are not going to make a big difference, yet they are going to make a big difference if the circumstances align to be such. So on one hand, we have to give ourselves grace and give ourselves space. But on the other hand, we have to understand that our immediate actions and reactions to our day-to-day lives are going to create that big picture that we now cannot really do much about. And if you become acutely aware of this dichotomy, of this inconsistency, of this paradoxical nature of truth, you feel crazy. You feel like you are the one who's crazy. Everyone else is living their normal lives, and you have just lost your goddamn mind, and you lost the grip, and you are just yelling around, running around, yelling about how capitalism is killing us all, but nobody else notices. And you see people who live their happy little lives unscathed, apparently, by the terrors of capitalism that should be affecting everyone. But remember, you don't know everyone's story. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors. So all these people you may be thinking are living normal lives, all of them may be going through a lot as well, but they're not going to display it to you personally all the time. It's not going to be available to you all the time. So just be mindful of that. And also know that there are so many things that accumulate slowly. And remember that Lenin quote about things not happening for years and then happening in the span of a few weeks. Yeah, this is still true. So a lot of the things that we wish to see in the world changed immediately, they're going to be seemingly changing overnight. But we may not be able to notice all of these changes, because if we are a part of the changes, then we are not going to be able to notice it. It is the same as with observing your own face and your own aging, your own processes. If you look at yourself every single day in the mirror, you're not going to notice all of the minuscule little details. But when you look at a picture of a photo of yourself from a few years ago, you're going to see how much you've changed, and you will be astonished. You'll be like, who's that person? I don't know them. If you look at my pictures from 4 years ago, I am unrecognizable. To many people, I have become really ugly, and I have embraced the whole feminism thing, but I've just aged. And I've been struggling with so much in those past 4 years. I've gone through the worst things in my life that happened to me so far, and they have devastated me completely, and they have destroyed the past version of myself. It was not glamorous. It was not fun. I'm still going through it. I'm still grieving so many parts of my life that I will never disclose to anyone apart from a close little circle of community that I've built over these years. But those things have really taken a toll on me mentally, physically. And I know that to a lot of people, it also happens. A lot of things happen that are beyond your comprehension. And people are not going to be walking around just telling everyone willy-nilly about all the most tragic stories of their lives, because it's weird. And also, we don't live in high trust societies, whatever this means. We don't live in societies where we can freely grieve together with other people. And even if we start building socialist and communist communities, we're not going to magically transform into all of these loving, understanding creatures. It is going to be a painful and slow process. So this is what I want to remind you all of. All of these things that are not changing quickly enough, all of these things that are changing too quickly for us to keep up with, all of this is normal. And it's kind of gut-wrenching and at the same time kind of hilarious to be observing a lot of the things that are happening. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's funny in a haha way. I'm saying it is funny in the absurdist way, where you're like, how is this even possible? How is this able to keep on going? When you observe all the war and devastation that's happening all over the world, when you observe nature collapsing in all these different places, you cannot help but find this absurd. How can we keep on pretending like life is normal? How can we keep on pretending that capitalism and the way we build our societies is normal and is sustainable? So you have to give yourself space and time to grieve, to go through all of these emotions, all of these uncomfortable emotions of anger and despair, and feeling like, what am I gonna do? I cannot do anything. Even the simplest things are too hard for me. Who am I? I'm just a little person. But do remember, out of all these little people, out of all these little bricks, the future is going to be built. So all of our little griefs, all of our little matters, they are the ones that are going to make this big picture in the future. And our single little individual stories are not going to be put into a textbook, but they're going to define the trends and the tendencies. So we have a little bit of control and agency. We have a little bit of choice, even though it feels like we don't. We still have a little bit of this autonomy to exercise, and we must exercise this at every possible opportunity, at every single little interaction with every single person. Yes, we have all grown very cynical and very disillusioned with a lot of things, but we have to find it within ourselves to still do these little acts of talking to a person about why what's happening to them at work is unfair and not normal, talking to our neighbors about how it is not normal for our infrastructure to crumble, for example, talking to people at the grocery store, lamenting together about the cost of living crisis. All of these little things, they will build up. And yes, you will become the nuisance of your neighborhood, and people will maybe start avoiding you because you get on their nerves, you remind them of all the bad things, and people will say that you don't have positive vibes and whatever. But there's got to be this person in every single neighborhood, in every single community. There's got to be this little annoying person who's never happy about anything, who's always pointing out all these little flaws and always trying to inspire other people to do something about it. And they may try their best to do something too, and they may fail, and this is normal. They will need to get up and try again. And this is what we need to do in the year 2025. We need to get up once again and try and know that we're gonna fail again and again and again until we won't. And maybe we will live to see the day when we will stop failing and everything's gonna start happening all at once. Or maybe we won't. And we've got to come to terms with this. We've got to grieve that loss of the future that we may not have even experienced, that we may never get to experience. And we need to grieve all of this. And grief is a very slow process. It's a very tedious process. It's a very boring process in many regards. You lose so much time and energy doing that. But it's a necessary part of being this type of a meat sack with a consciousness. So yeah, go forth and do something and read something and talk to somebody. And hopefully this is going to bring some joy into your life and some joy into the world. And I hope you have a great day today. Consider supporting me on Patreon. Do take care of yourself and your community first. And I will talk to you sometime later.